Joining us this morning, Titania Jordan.
Tatiana Jordan. Did I get the name right? Jordan?
Titania.
Titania. Okay. All right.
It's Titania Jordan. Today we have the honor of hearing the story of the Jekyll Island Chronicles and the three amazing gentlemen behind it, Ed Kroll, Jack Lowe, and Steve Nedvedek. Take a look. Hi everyone, thank you so much for tuning in. Today we have three gentlemen with us that are just game changers. Their story will blow your minds and hopefully inspire you to take your creative desires to fruition, really. I've got Jack Lowe, Steve Nedvedek, and Ed Kroll of the Jekyll Island Chronicles here with me today. And before we dive into everything that this book encompasses and really the series and the movement, I want to hear about what each of you do professionally day to day. So Ed, we'll start with you.
Okay. Professionally, I'm the president and CEO of the Georgia Motor Trucking Association, and I serve on the board of Cobb Electric Membership Corporation and on the board of Gas South.
Awesome. Okay, Steve?
I didn't know we were doing board assignments.
Only profitable ones.
Okay. I am Steve Nedvedek, and I work for Chick-fil-A. I've been there for almost 30 years, and I teach innovation, and I coach on design thinking.
I love it. I love it. Jack?
Fun job.
Yeah.
And I'm also at Chick-fil-A, and I work on a brand new team called Culture, just helping Chick-fil-A maintain and strengthen its hopefully very unique, healthy culture. Did you say you're on the board of something? No, it was just Ed who did that. So
Yeah,
I'm on the board of nothing.
I wasn't going there for this. No.
Great. So now we have a frame of reference for your professional skill sets. But today we're here to especially talk about your creative endeavor.
We did a little bit in Denver.
Yeah. Can we
Are
redo
we
that,
in
Mike?
Denver?
Can we? Okay. So I'll just. So today we're here to talk about your creative endeavor, the Jekyll Island Chronicles, and I want to know the first spark. Like, how was this born?
Well,
Sparky, you
yeah,
tell
so
me.
I'll be Sparky here.
Okay.
For me, the idea was, you grow up watching movies and reading comic books, and as all of us did, we found out later in life when we all became friends that we all had things in common, and one was the love of good story and comic books, and it's just something I always wanted to do. So whenever I come up with an idea that might make a good story, I just kind of file it away in my mind, and hopefully it'll come out at some later time. And I was just at a point in my career where I realized that I needed to do something creative kind of for me. And I had a seed of a story about people who were fighting the bad guys, and people who could potentially be during World War II or between the wars, who could potentially be fighting some folks who are trying to blow up the world at that point in time, hooking it into history, and just a real rough sketch of an outline. And we had a Christmas party at our house one day. This was back in December of 2012, right?
I think it was 12.
Wow.
And
Yeah,
it's been a long time ago. And I stopped Ed on the way out and said, I want to write a book. I want to write a comic book or do something different. And he said he was in, and I knew to ask him because he would care. And then shortly thereafter, we asked Jack because I knew he would care. And they all said, yeah, let's just do this. And from there, that was the seed. And from there, it blossomed and grew. And they watered it, and different branches came out of it. And it became this really cool-looking book that you just, raised up there. That's fantastic.
So December 2012, the spark was lit.
Yep, fire was lit.
And Ed, tell us, how did y'all know each other? So you obviously didn't just meet at this Christmas party.
No, we'd actually met, 10, 15 years before that.
Yeah.
We met at church, basically attended the same Sunday school class, and for a while Steve was the teacher of that Sunday school class. and had maintained the friendship to varying degrees over the years, as we all went our way and raised our children, but had just maintained that friendship. One of the traditions was the Christmas party. Even though we all went to different churches by that point, we still all got together for the Christmas party. And, and I think one of the great points is that each of us had that idea. We're going to write the great American novel, or we're going to, we wanted to do something creative, but Steve stepped out and really did spark it by, saying, hey, would somebody go on this journey with me? Could you guys work with me? And that is always a red letter day for me, for him to say that. And so then I said, yes, I'm in. I went home and asked my wife, can I be in?
Important thing to do.
Yeah, and she was all on board too.
Good. Yeah, I mean, everybody has ideas, right? But it's another thing to embark on them for real. Yeah. So, Jack, talk about how, since you were kind of the last one to join.
Was I even at that? I don't think I was even at that party. Thanks.
Well, it was a tradition to have a Christmas party without
This is
Jack,
the first time hearing y'all have parties.
FOMO.
Y'all had Christmas parties?
Stop.
I forgot.
Moving on. let's let sleeping dogs lie. And yeah, I know. Forgive, move on, forget, but not forget about, what were the first steps? How did you take it from Steve's idea to the three of you coming together, and where do you begin?
Mm-hmm. So first steps were you just have to do it. I mean, you have to say, yes, we like the idea, and then what? What is the and then what? Mm-hmm. And it was literally for us getting down in Steve's basement and start mapping it out. Like, what is the story? Let's flesh out this story, and at the same time begin mapping out the course of actions that have to happen to make this a book. You can write a story and you can turn this into a published work. And so we had to kind of map out story and begin fleshing that out, and we had to map out a course of action for producing a finished graphic novel. But really the catalyst was getting down in Steve's basement and just doing it. I mean, how many people have great ideas and just don't take that step? Yeah. And I think that was the magic was we took that step. We literally said, okay, next week we're going to meet and we're going to talk about this. Yeah. And that was where it really, to me, really happened.
So you put your heads together, you made a commitment to make it happen, even though, to my knowledge, none of you had ever written a book, created a comic series, done anything like this before, right?
Only in our heads.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I was the closest one to have done any drawing of any kind for any particular reason, editorial cartooning and stuff. But to do this we were just this is plowing new ground. And to make a commitment to each other that we were going to kind of see this through and just try was a big deal. And a commitment from our spouses, too, to let us go, because it was like, I don't play golf. And I keep reminding my wife when she talks about, the time that we've put into this is, honey, we don't have a golf membership. This is golf. This is my golf. And so rather than going down that path, we decided to pool resources and let this become our hobby. And so once a week, we were getting down to the basement and just throwing ideas against the wall to see what story arc would be, what character development would be, what were some of the main themes we wanted to see raise up in this book. And we became very quickly aware that we were going to need help in doing this because, there is the whole drawing thing that happens in a graphic novel.
Among others.
Yeah, among other things.
And Ed, talk about how you took it from idea and storyboarding and time and commitment and research to, okay, now we really actually have to get this thing made.
Yeah.
So what next?
Well, really part of the front end of that, as Steve just alluded to, was the theme and the idea of what is this going to be about, not only in terms of plot, but in terms of underlying theme. And we decided on some things we wanted the book to do. We wanted the book to be clear good and evil. We didn't want morally ambiguous characters. We wanted our characters to know right from wrong. We wanted to have our characters to have faith, not necessarily be preachy. This was not, for that purpose, but to show that sort of real life, living out Christian values and the things they were doing. And as we designed that and we laid it out, we said, okay, this is it. We built the storyline on top of that. And then we said, we've got to figure out how to get it drawn. We could write it. We've all done some writing, and in some way or another. But we needed to figure that out. And once again, you know, for lack of a better term, Steve was the spark. He'd done work through his work at Chick-fil-A with the folk at the Savannah College of Art and Design at SCAD.
Love SCAD.
And he came up with an idea and approached SCAD and said, you know, would you guys be interested in letting us work with some of your sequential arts students? And we talked with them. We went down to visit with them a little bit and basically developed the idea of turning this into a class project. And so they took grad students and one or two very promising undergrads and created an elective for them. And those students had as an elective project was to take what we gave them, our theme, our plot, our character development, and create a pitch packet, a 35-page booklet to tell publishers what the story was going to be. And so that was the first way we started to get it on paper, and inked out from where we started.
And it also forced us to be on the ball. I mean,
Like, this
we
is
had to-
real.
yeah, this is real.
Yeah.
We had to.
Yeah, because we had a deadline. Suddenly,
We had
you've
to
got
stay
a
ahead of
class
them.
that's starting, you know, in
And they're gonna
March
finish-
of
yeah.
2013.
Yep.
You got to be ready.
And
that-
we also had, I'm sorry, we also had these kids, for lack of a better term, these young people on the other side of the table asking us questions that forced us to flesh it out even more, because they want to know, well, if I'm going to draw this character, what's the character's background? What's the character's, you know, motivation to be involved? And some of that we didn't have, so we had to run back and create it and say, well, here's the questions you were asking, here are the answers.
Yeah, we didn't really have a script at that point in time. I mean, we had ideas, we had plot points, we had
A story arc.
we had story arc, we had little bits and pieces of scenes, enough to be able to hang a class on, but not enough to be able to really have a complete narrative. And so that was a huge missing piece that we're going to have to ultimately address.
So this was an amazing step, very important step in the story of the Jekyll Island Chronicles.
Critical.
Yeah.
Very critical, and one that really elevated your progress to the next level. Before we get into the process and what has come of it, let's talk about why Jekyll Island, and then why this time in history.
Well, for me, when we were kicking around the seed of the idea, there was a lot that was going on, and I think we're all fans of history, and we all, we've talked about those kind of things before, and there's a lot that happens that you either forget about or you're not taught. And for me, having a grandfather who was an immigrant from Bohemia, who joined the United States Cavalry at the end of World War I, just to get his citizenship. That was always intriguing to me, the idea of somebody who would do that, to become a citizen of another country, who would fight for another country who wasn't born there. Yeah. And I just really liked that time in history. And I loved the time after that, because the world was in upheaval. You had new countries that were being formed. You had old countries that were going away. You had technologies that were, being boosted up. You had these industrialists. You had this wave of immigrants coming in. The world had changed so much, and then you had this whole other group of people who really existed, who were trying to blow everything up.
It's just insane.
Yeah, the anarchist movement right after World War I really happened. It was a thing.
So there was our bad guys.
And
that's what we needed.
those are bad guys. And so we were able to kind of pinpoint a time and said, well, what happened during that time? Who were players during that time? And we began to put names up on the board. Henry Ford was a player, and Woodrow Wilson was a player, and Andrew Carnegie was a player, and all these folks that were players. And then I remember one meeting, and Ed popped up and said, well, that sounds a lot like what was going on at Jekyll Island. And I said, what's Jekyll Island? And I've been living in Georgia for 20 years and had never visited Jekyll before.
Wow.
And
He
so
hates South Georgia.
that is not true, Jack. We were just with SCAD in Savannah.
Oh, that's true.
Okay. So we started to hear about this, and we started doing research, and it was just like, oh my gosh, that is the perfect place. And it actually still is there. It exists. You can go into that building. You can go into those buildings, and it's preserved. It's locked in time. But we also knew what we needed to do was to create our own world. That if we wanted a book series, and we had always talked about it as, well, wouldn't it be cool? This story arc goes until whenever. it would be really, really cool if we could create our own world. We had to create a world, so we had to take the world that was, and we had to change it, which meant alternative history.
Yep.
Right?
Yep. So it's very close, but we twist it and change it just little places where we need to make it a little more exciting, a little more useful to us.
Well, I love it as the mom of an 8.5-year-old. We're on the cusp of him thinking he's old enough to consume certain content when he's really not. He's very mature, but he's still very innocent, and I'm trying so hard to preserve and protect that innocence.
Of course. Yeah.
So a book like this that has mystery, intrigue, good guys, bad guys, but themes that I'm proud to have him dive into, it's safe. And I think we need more of that in the world. So, Jack, talk about how you cover such a mature and heavy time in the history of our world, yet come out in the end, keeping that Christian theme and good versus evil, good prevails, keep the faith, that sort of thing.
So I think one of the challenges early on when we were identifying our artists and working with SCAD, there's a tendency today in graphic novels to be pretty graphically violent.
Or over-sexualized.
Or over-sexualized, whatever it is. And the artist kind of assumed when we were telling our story, I think in some cases, they didn't outwardly say this, but there was a implication there that we were one and the same. We were writing another Walking Dead, or we were writing whatever it might be. And a couple of times we had to kind of pull them back and say, no, that's maybe a little too graphic in pick an area, in sex or violence or whatever. And we knew we didn't want to be that way. We knew we wanted to be safe for broader audiences. We knew what our own convictions were and our own values were, and we wanted it to match that as well. Plus, we knew the time period, 1917, 1918, was not a very sexualized time in the world.
Oh my gosh, your ankles!
Yeah.
I can see your ankles.
Yeah, we had one real long conversation about the length of somebody's dress.
Yeah, we actually did.
We did.
We had to change the art.
To make it historically accurate.
Yeah, and make it historically accurate. And I didn't want that much leg showing. I mean, it's okay, I'm a prude, but
it was almost to the knee. So,
The horror.
But that was just the tack we took to think through this thing. The times, what were they like, and our values, and considering our future audience. We needed to kind of meld all that together and hopefully come up with a book that's very appealing to a broad group and to us.
So I want to get back to a theme, but before we do, and that theme is, if you are that careful, if you aren't overly sexualized, if you aren't overly graphic, can you succeed in the secular mainstream world of comic and graphic novels? So let's talk about that in a minute, your success really, at Comic-Con and beyond.
Okay.
Before we get to that, though, I think people watching will want to know, okay, so you've got this class at SCAD, but how did you get from the class to a beautifully produced, high quality, I mean, the pages are lovely, and it's you can buy it online. How did you get there?
Right.
who wants to tackle it?
All right. So
it's a group effort.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's right. So I'll,
Okay.
I'll do a
So
little
we'll all
bit. you
talk
do a
at
little
once?
bit. Well, yes,
Yes.
that's right. Let's do that. And
Let the sound guy sort it
let the
out.
viewer beware. I think for us, once we got past the class at SCAD, and we had the pitch packet in our hand, which was, which is a huge achievement right there. I mean, we'd gotten that far. We had a list from the folks at SCAD of publishers that might consider this. And we were culling through that list one day, and we noticed that we're all from Cobb County here in, outside of Atlanta, and we noticed that one of the publishers is actually also from Cobb County right here outside of Atlanta, actually in Marietta, which was weird. Okay, so we called him. We were able to connect, took him to lunch, and showed him the pitch packet. Introduced ourselves, wound up learning more about him. His name is Chris Steros. He was the publisher of Top Shelf Publishing, and he'd been going to Comic-Con for years, graphic novels for years, so he knew that world. And we showed him the pitch packet. We were trying to explain to him exactly what was going on. And the next day, we got a call from him saying, okay, this is really good, guys. If you can finish this up, I would be really interested in keeping this whole thing in Georgia. I mean, the three of us from Georgia, SCAD's in Georgia,
Jekyll
Island's in Georgia. Chris Steros from Top Shelf was in Georgia. He said, let's keep this whole thing in Georgia. So that was a really great day.
Yeah.
That's when we kind of all went, okay, now what do we do?
We got a publisher.
Yeah,
Because we had a publisher who said if you could finish this up, because we still didn't have a finished script.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, we still that.
And a book really needs that.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. Otherwise,
kinda-
it meanders. And
Yeah.
Where's blank
You
pages?
don't know
Kinda
when
like
to,
book
yeah,
two.
you don't know when to quit flipping pages and things like that because you're not sure when it's ending. You know.
So it's go time.
Yeah.
What do you do? How do you go?
We you know, honestly, we tackled it like a business. We set up a schedule, and we met our schedule. We assigned duties to everybody, and you know, you're going to write this scene, you're going to write this scene, you're going to do this.
Accountability
you're gonna do that.
was
and you know, and it was pretty much weekly, if not more frequently, and you know, and we just went after it. And I think it took us from the time he said he'd be interested to maybe to when we finally had a signed contract from a publisher was probably about 6 months, 6 or 8 months, because it was.
Yeah, may have been almost closer to a year
Wow.
Could be.
when we actually had the signed contract, because we had to go through drafts.
Yeah.
We had to write draft 1, and then we had to go back and have him read it, and because we had not done this before, so
fewer drafts than I think we thought
Yeah,
we'd
Yeah.
have
yeah,
to
because
do
we
that.
sent him the second draft, and he basically said, "You guys are done."
yeah,
And you know, because we were ready to go back again, and you know, he said, "No, this is good." And
yeah.
you know, and that was nice to hear.
That's so important to note for everybody watching too. Most success isn't overnight. A lot of the stories you watch on TV and see in the news, it's revisionist history. It's like, oh, we had an idea, and the next day we're selling our company for $1 billion. It's a long road, a lot of
Indeed.
iterations, successes and failures. So that's really cool that you're sharing with us that it really did. It took that long. That's a long time.
And that's just to get the script done.
Right.
That's not to get the book done.
No.
Right.
No. So script is finished, signed deal. What's next?
Somebody's got to draw it.
Which
Oh,
means you
there's
have
that.
to pay somebody to
Yes.
draw it. Which means you have to come up with a cash flow
Yes.
in order to pay somebody.
So
But we found
to
two
draw.
great artists out of SCAD.
Okay.
Who were in that class at the time.
Clearly.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Beautiful.
Yep.
Yeah. So at the end of the class when they produced the pitch packet, at the same time we were sort of screening talent for the future, and knew that they were our best pool of people who could help carry this to the finish.
And also that they would take direction.
Yeah, that was
I mean, that
important.
was really key, especially for young people who are going to work with or for somebody
for the first time.
for the first time.
Great point.
You need to have. It's not about just you. It's not about your art, your vision. You're ultimately responsible to a larger entity. In this case, the three of us, to say, okay, well, here's where we want this to go, and you need to work with us to get there. And that put some of the students kind of outside of who we would consider, because they couldn't do it.
Yeah.
And maybe
Just
during the
couldn't do
class
it.
we were giving direction, or we're describing scenes, characters, what have you, and then they turn around their sketch pads and show us, and you can see, well, that's great art. That may not
But
be
it's not
at
all
all
what
what
we
we
asked
were.
you to do.
Listen.
Yeah,
Yeah.
did you listen?
Right.
Yeah.
And then you clearly had those who were able to do that. Moses Nestor is someone we got from the class, and he's our lead illustrator on this work. And Sarah Miller is our colorist, and she came out of that class as well. And
Yeah.
so when you're seeing this finished product, the beautiful art is from those two, directed by us. Is that buzz going to be okay?
Yeah, Mike, should we? Nope, I think we're good.
There you go.
Okay, cool.
So yeah, as Steve said, then we started investing in the project in a financial sense more than we already had, and got involved with them, worked out a business deal with them of how much it was going to cost to produce every single page of this book, what their split would be and how they could work together, and
And a schedule, because we
yeah,
had
and a
we were
schedule.
starting to meet timelines
Right.
now, and the publisher
Yeah.
had expectations.
when they'd turn around things to us, when we'd meet and turn around things to them, back with our comments. so
And we
could
all
sign
still had
off on each
jobs.
page. Yeah.
So we still,
Right?
three of us still have full-time jobs
And families.
and families.
Yeah,
and
so that's
go on
it's a-
vacation
Yeah.
and stuff. Yeah.
It's a
Yeah,
large.
so that became another year of intense work.
Wow.
And,
Technology
Yeah.
definitely helped there
yeah.
because we were doing everything digitally. We were approving art, commenting on art, text, whatever it might be, all just electronically, just back and forth. I mean, our illustrator and our colorists were not even near us. They were across the country, different places.
So I think everybody watching is probably thinking, so how much did this cost? Like, how much money did you need to put into this? You know, once the class was over and you had a signed deal and you needed to get this done.
Yeah.
So talk about that.
Talk
and
about Kickstarter.
Talk about Kickstarter.
Yeah. So I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I think we were all in for about 10 grand before we got to Kickstarter.
Before we did.
Yeah.
And we
something-
knew we needed 25 more to finish the book.
Yeah, yeah. So we had
It's a
put
lot.
about 30,000 into getting it to that point, and then we decided that other people wanted to help us with this.
Yes, they did.
Yes, they did. And so
And
we
we
started.
charged Ed with figuring out Kickstarter. And
Yeah, I learned
he
a
did
lot.
yeoman's work figuring out Kickstarter.
So tell us everything about Kickstarter and that process.
Okay. Well, it's actually a great platform to put your project out there and to see if other people, it's almost like a market test. See if other people think it's an idea worth pursuing.
Absolutely.
And so I got into, reading about it, learning from it, going through the website, what's the story, how's it going to work, and also researching how to best position our project, because there are hundreds of graphic novel projects out there too. And
So
I would
how do
go
you stand
through,
out?
yeah, and I'd go through and look at all the ones that failed and look at the ones that succeeded. Now, a lot of the ones that succeeded were second, third, and fourth iterations. That is, they'd already had a following.
Wow.
So that was one thing, and then started to look at the things that make it successful. And so, we had to invest there as well. We had to create a video that captured somebody's interest if they'd never heard about it before. So we wrote yet another script. We scripted a video. Jack ended up narrating the video for us. We began the project of spreading the word, and we also began looking at Kickstarters, quite honestly, that we could invest in, because one of the things that's true about Kickstarter is it's a community.
Yes.
And so if you support other people, they turn around and offer some more support to you. And so we did. We found a few interesting things that we could support and became Kickstarters active in that way. And then finally we launched our Kickstarter. And
Can I say one thing that
yeah.
we had to figure out what that amount was going to be?
True. And what
And-
rewards to give.
Yeah. And the scary thing about Kickstarter, if you're not familiar with it, is other than other platforms that are out there, that if you don't reach your goal, you lose everything. And that was a bit
Risky.
intense.
Which is cool.
It's a
That's a
little
pass-fail kind of
disconcerting,
thing.
yeah.
It was risky, but it was fun.
And we had people who were advising us to lower our goal for that reason.
Yep.
Hey, you better lower your goal, because if you don't reach everything, you lose everything.
You get nothing and like it. That's
And we had to really think hard about
Yep.
that.
Yeah.
Do we want to lower our goal? Is that something that is worth the risk? And we said no. Let's not lower our goal. Let's
So
put
we
it up
stayed
there.
with the 2.5 million, and
Yeah.
now we're all retired. No.
So what were they advising you to set your goal at?
Well, some people were talking about, well, what do you need? You need 10,000 to finish, or 15, or whatever. We figured we needed north of 20 to finish, and so we went with 25,000 for the goal, and launched the project. And we talked to a lot of friends. We introduced Kickstarter to a lot of people who'd never heard of it. And at the end, we raised well over 30,000. So we got our goal, and we kept on going.
Wow.
And it was just a great experience.
So
And-
the fact that the three of you came together in the history of the universe at the same time, shared the love of comics and graphic novels and storytelling, had a common faith, got this to be a class at SCAD, exceeded your Kickstarter goal. Like, these are all wins.
Got a publisher on the first try.
Got a publisher on the first try from your same
I don't think
county.
this really happens all the time.
No, this is. I think there's a higher power at play, helping you to bring honor and glory to ultimately His plan for your life, and it's just such a cool story. So exceeded Kickstarter goal. What's next?
Book two.
So yeah, you wind up with
I was a little too far next.
yeah you've moved on. We
Go ahead and
we
edit
haven't
that
even
out.
finished book 1 yet.
Here, I'll ask that again.
Let's jump ahead 2
All right.
years.
Yeah, I'll say
I'm going to say one other thing
Take-
about Kickstarter.
take
If I
two.
may.
Yeah,
One
yeah.
other thing about Kickstarter is that was our first. Well, there are doses of encouragement along the way. I mean, you get the SCAD class, and they like your story, and then that's uplifting. You know, you see art coming out of it, which is uplifting. You get that publisher, and he likes the story, and that's uplifting. But Kickstarter was really deeply encouraging, because the people who were contributing to Kickstarter, they didn't have a finished book to say, oh, I want to buy this. We had nothing really to show them except this test video and some sketches and some early art. So they were supporting us. So they were encouraged by us and our story and what we wanted to do. So many people who were giving because they wanted to help fulfill a dream, our dream. And that's pretty amazing when you realize we've exceeded a goal. We reached 30,000, whatever the final amount was, mostly out of people who wanted to fund some strangers' dreams. That's very, very encouraging.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, it becomes a journey, kind of an inspiration.
Yes.
And that's where you start to feel like, okay, we're being propped up here, not just by people that are trying to, help you, but we truly are being propped up by events, by friends, by family, and by our faith. Mm-hmm. Because for me, and I've said this many times, this is one of the hardest things I've ever done, and this is one of the easiest things I've ever done. Because the doors that have been opening up since we started this, it's just amazing. I mean, you get into work sometimes, and you're trying to move work forward, and it's like my old boss used to say, it's like pushing a wet noodle up a hill. And this has never felt like I was pushing a wet noodle up a hill. I mean, everything from these guys joining in to, the SCAD and the Kickstarter and Chris Staros, I mean, it was all door open, door open, door open. And it's been an incredible ride, and that hasn't stopped. I mean, even as we're, approaching, finishing up book 2, it's just not stopped.
That's kind of the theme of my life, is God opens doors where there are walls. I will say that over and over and over until the day I die, because it's just true, and it's continually encouraging and inspiring, and I love to hear stories like yours, because it just reaffirms that notion.
Well, and one other thing about the Kickstarter, that one of the themes in this book is the idea of people coming together to make something happen. Mm-hmm. And we were living that. As Jack said, there are people coming together. A lot of people we knew, a lot of people we didn't know, who came together and helped move this along. And, so we were sort of living out one of the themes of our book, of people banding together to make something good happen.
And all very different people.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like we're all cookie-cutter folks, and the people that are supporting us are cookie-cutter folks. If you get online and look at Facebook, for example, of all the people that are interested in the work, it's like, oh my gosh, they're from everywhere, and they look totally different. Yeah. And that's a great testimony to this idea of we truly can achieve wonderful things if we all link arms.
Absolutely. Yeah. So let's go back to what we were talking about earlier, Jack, of there's a novel that's safe and beautiful, but also compelling and competitive from a design and storyline standpoint. How was it received? Talk about Comic-Con and
I think
the buzz.
So I think you said competitive. I think that was one of the important things, is we knew that the world right now is full of darker heroes and darker stories, and they're great and they're exciting and they're thrilling in their own way. But we felt like there's an opportunity to stand out competitively with our story. We wouldn't have done it if we thought it was going to be a complete failure, I don't think. So we knew there was a market for it. And so as we began to finish the book and get it out there and get it in front of people, and then see people who are interested, that's kind of affirmed our belief that, people want a story like this. I guess it's maybe like a Captain America in its more traditional sense, or Wonder Woman in her more traditional sense, just fighting for good. There are not many stories out there like that, and I'm not even aware of any that take history like we have and really made it a key component of the story. So a lot of people are affected by that when they read our story or get to know it, and a lot of people are affected by our fantasy element, our superhero element, and their heart, the heart of our heroes as well. So I think it's appealing to people on a lot of different levels, And so far, as Steve mentioned, you go to Facebook and you see our fans and people commenting on it. It seems to bear that out, that people are excited about this for a lot of different reasons.
Well,
different ages, different demographics.
If I could pull on the thread of the style of the book too, because when you talk about the technology that is represented in the book.
Yes.
Okay? So you have the history piece, you have the hero piece, you have the fantasy piece, but the technology piece is diesel punk. So it's steampunk-esque, but a
little bit later.
A little bit later.
Yeah.
And so what would Henry Ford's personal car have looked like? What
So
would
cool.
Andrew Carnegie have been able to do with his information, knowledge, his tech at that time if it was on steroids? And so that is where these heroes are really made. I mean, Tesla and Steinmetz get together with one of our heroes, and her body makes electricity due to an accident that you find out about in book 2. So how do you harness that? What does that look like? What's that costume look like? And we just have had a lot of fun with the diesel punk people that are the diesel punk vibe that is in the book. And then going to Comic-Con, for example, after we got the book, one of the first things we had to do was promote the book.
Yes.
We took it to Comic-Con and found that the folks in the steampunk world that were walking around San Diego were totally drawn to our characters. And that was a whole nother audience,
Maybe our biggest one.
Yeah.
Maybe
And
our
talk
biggest
about
audience.
that. Talk about the draw. That was another one of those cataclysmic moments.
Yeah.
Having what you did at Comic-Con. So talk about that, the visual appeal.
Well, it's interesting because when the publisher set up for us to go to Comic-Con, well, the publisher makes certain efforts and they decide certain things. We're brand new. So they were taking us along, and they weren't doing a whole lot else. They weren't going to buy billboards to advertise our book. Or
They gave us time at the table.
They gave us time at the table. They gave us
Which we're grateful for.
participation
Absolutely.
in a panel. I mean, they made an investment in us, but they made an investment appropriate to somebody who's new. Nobody ever knew us or anything like that. So it fell back to us. If we
Yeah.
were going to market this thing, we had to do some work on
So
it.
how'd you take it to the next level?
So one thing we had to do was we had to figure out social media. And so we're all dads, and we've all crossed the half-century mark, and we are looking at how in the world do you do this? Because that's just not what we do. And we had a variety of younger folks, some of our children and others, who set up things like, okay, here's what your web page looks like, here's Facebook for you, here's Twitter. So we had folks who were willing to help on that stuff. And we had to learn how to post things. We had to learn how to say things that were, appropriate and, and people cared about. And that's all leading up to this debut in San Diego at the convention center in the middle of Comic-Con, which I think I was only one of the guys that had been to Comic-Con before, but as a visitor, never sitting behind a booth and signing anything. And one of the things that we decided really early on, and this is from our business world, our business experience has really influenced us a lot because we're not just out of school right now. We've been in the game for 30 years.
Wow.
So we know things like marketing matters and standing out matters. So we've got a buddy, a friend, a follower, a donor who works at a special effects company in LA.
Wow.
The guys that build the Jurassic Park dinosaurs and that work on Avatar and Terminator
Iron
and
Man.
Iron Man. The guys that build Iron Man. Loved our work. Alan Scott is a friend of mine, and he built costume legs for our main character, Peter Karabic. So my
Huge.
6'6" son is on 18-inch stilts, walking around Comic-Con, a good head and a half higher than everybody else in a sea of 50,000 people. And people are stopping and they're taking pictures, and my daughter's dressed up as Helen Huxley, one of our characters with the electrical issue, and my son is dressed up as one of the lead villains, and people are gathering around, and we're handing out flyers, and we're signing books, and people are taking pictures, and you're going, pinch me moment.
Yeah, like
can't believe we're here.
Oh, this is how you stand out.
And then our characters show up on the front page of the daily reports on Comic-Con.
Wow.
And, people are like, I don't know who these people are, but they look good, and we
look
want to
really
learn
good.
more.
And if you know anything about those Comic Cons, cosplay is what it's called.
Yep.
That is a huge aspect of that experience for visitors. And, I mean, it's massive. And people are taking pictures, and they're all dressing up as their favorite superheroes, and ours have never been seen before, and it's done maybe better than anybody else's costume at Comic-Con. I mean, we have legacy effects behind you. Know it's going to look great. Wow. And 200,000 people, in this convention center, and I think we were estimating 5,000 photos taken of our characters walking around.
Oh my goodness.
Because they stood out. I stood literally head and shoulders above the others, but they also looked just amazing, and people were just drawn to them like moths to a flame, and they're taking pictures like crazy. Yeah. And then that sent people to our booth where we were over there signing books.
Well, we had a local lady who works for working as a volunteer, and she is a costume designer for a Christian school up in our area. And you wouldn't
award-winning.
You wouldn't think that you would find. I mean, the level of talent that she has in making this. So, Legacy Effects did the legs and the costume for one character, and then Pam did the costume for the other two characters, and it is awesome. Where these people are coming from to help you.
Will you send me pictures?
Oh, absolutely.
Because I would love to share links for people to view that. So as you're watching this now on YouTube or on our website, in the description below, we'll have links to where to buy the book and pictures and how to support and follow along on social media, which I'm so glad you guys learned how to use and embrace. So yeah, this is great. We could talk literally for hours because we have a good time together. Like you might not know, you out there watching in internet land, but like we have a good time.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And so on that note, because we can't talk for the next 7 hours, which again I would love to, let's talk about what's next, and then how can we help you? How can we support you? What can we do to help take the Jekyll Island Chronicles series to the next level? So what's next?
Is this
how can
where
we
I
help
can
you?
say book 2 is next?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. There you go.
I jumped the gun a little earlier.
That's fine.
Book 2 is next.
Okay.
Book 2 will be coming out in the spring of 2018.
Okay.
And that will be a seminal moment because we'll then actually be a series.
Wow.
We're saying we're a series.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, it's
Kind of hard to do that when you just have one.
Yes.
A series of one.
So,
Yeah.
and,
Yeah.
but we're really looking forward to that. We actually have some shorter term things that probably will occur before this ever gets online, because there's a Comic-Con day or a
Steampunk Day.
Steampunk Day
At a local bookstore.
local
and-
bookstore.
Wow.
And
Yeah, we're redoing our website.
Yep. Yep, make it easier to buy merchandise, and those kind of things. But the next big event is book 2 coming out.
So book 2, spring of 2018, we'll be sure to promote that and let everybody who follows along know that's out and ready for you.
And we're giving updates on the progress of book 2 on Facebook and
On
our
Facebook.
and our
And on
website.
Facebook,
Yeah.
Instagram,
Great.
Twitter. Yep.
Right.
We'll
Yep.
link to
It's
that
all
for
there.
sure.
Mhm.
And then so I guess beyond following your journey online through social media and your website and subscribing to our channel, what else can we do? How can we help you? Pray
Buy
for
book
you?
1.
Yes.
Buy book 1.
Always prayer.
Yes,
Absolutely.
yes.
Yeah.
Prayer and buy book 1.
Yes,
Okay.
buy book 1. Yeah.
Prayer and buy book 1.
One of the marks of success is a second printing of that first edition, and we are within a fingernail's width of getting the publisher to say, "Hey, we got to print more of these because we've sold them all."
Oh.
So buy book 1, get that second printing, and that'll be a great help. And then get ready to buy book 2.
Awesome.
And our publisher, Top Shelf, a couple years ago was bought by IDW, who's now the 4th largest comic book publisher in the country. And another good piece of great news is that we are being proposed and pitched to production companies for film and television. And boy, wouldn't that be great to
Gee,
see that.
I wonder if you're in a good state for that.
Yeah, we might be able to round
Georgia.
up some
Let's keep
people
it
to do a
all in
little
Georgia.
filming.
Yeah, if there are any
Yeah.
producers out in Georgia who
Huh.
are watching this and want to,
Yeah.
yeah.
I think another area that, if anybody in the viewing audience has any kind of education connections,
Yes.
Just last week we finished, and we had someone write for us a really well done teacher's guide. So theoretically, then the book ends up in a school library somewhere, and with a teacher's guide that makes it really easy for teachers to weave our book into their class, literature, history, whatever it might be. And we think like that's a pretty interesting thing. We think there's a lot to learn in literature and history from our book, and it'll sell more books. So
Yes.
Yeah.
I think
Great.
if anybody has any inside edge to education markets, or if you're a teacher out there, or a principal, or librarian, whatever it might be, there will be teacher guides available online.
That's
Yeah.
huge. I can't think of a more fun, creative way to bring, the technology and then the history component together in a way that children will be engaged and want to learn about it and commit it to memory.
And the target for this really is more of I would say it would lean more high school. I think you could get some older middle schoolers, involved in reading it. But from a high school standpoint, once you get into U.S. history, once you get into world history, world geography, you get a chance to know where some of these things are occurring, because this isn't just a thing that happens on Jekyll. I mean, there are
Right.
scenes in here in New York, there are scenes in Europe, there are scenes in Chicago. Book 2 takes a lot of place in Great Britain.
Wow.
So it really is kind of a global story. And we've got 4 more books after book 2 that we're planning. So this series will take us a while to finish. And from a timing and dating standpoint, we'll go to the beginning years of World War II.
Wow.
When Jekyll Island was mysteriously, just abandoned for mysterious reasons. We'll just leave it at that.
You guys are good at cliffhangers. As we wrap, I like to leave people with wisdom nuggets. And because you all have had amazing careers and have been able to pursue your creative endeavor, I'd like to just go around the table and have each of you give a little wisdom nugget.
Oh, you better start over there.
Okay. Something that a mentor has poured into you, a saying that you tell yourself weekly, daily, monthly, a Bible verse, a book that has inspired you, just something so that somebody out there who's watching right now might really cling to and be happy that they saw this.
Yeah.
So
Well, I'll go first on
Okay.
that if you guys want to spend time thinking deeper, because I will just tell you, for me and having the relationship with Jack and Ed that I do and our families, this whole thing is a godsend. To me, there's no question in my mind. But at the same time, I also know that, and Truett Cathy, the founder of Chick-fil-A, who I had a chance to work with for many, many years, used to say is, if it's to be, it's up to me. And one of my very favorite business slogans is not from Peter Drucker, and it's not from, Jim Collins and Pat Lencioni or any of the business gurus. It's actually from Milton Berle, the old comedian, father of modern television, I guess. And he had a saying that if opportunity doesn't knock, build a door. And I love that.
I love that.
Because I feel like part of what I've been doing in my life is I've have a life of building doors. And if you build enough doors, they'll open. Some will open. And for me, it's just been an ongoing journey in life of trying things, building doors, and not being defined by one thing, especially if you have a lot of things you're interested in. Try a lot of things in life. Hopefully you're going to have a long one. You need to, use it to its fullest.
Steve, that's great. Thank you.
Was Milton Berle dressed like a woman when he said that?
I don't believe so. I think he had his suit on.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, Ed, you're up.
I don't know I'd be nearly as eloquent as that, but I know a couple of things I tried to teach my children along the way, and they were probably sick of me saying them. But one of the things I always tried to tell them was that excellence creates opportunities. That you got to have that commitment on the front end, and one of the reasons this came to be is because we were all committed to making the best product we could make all along the way. I mean, we could have thrown a couple $1,000s and had something printed up and said, "Hey, we did a book," and go out and get it on Amazon.
Right.
But we were committed from the very beginning that we were going to make a product that was worthy of a publisher looking at and saying, you know, this is quality, I want to put it out there, and that people would want to read and would enjoy reading. You know, and another point I always tell the kids along the same line, it's not what you know, it's what you show that counts. And, you know, because everybody knows they can write a great book. Everybody knows they can do something. Go out there and do it. Get to work on it. And maybe one more in a little more spiritual vein is something I learned from my pastor, which is live from God's approval, not for the approval of others. You know, God loves us, and He's approved of who we are and saved us, and so be comfortable in that and go do something.
Oh, such good stuff. Jack, bring us home.
All righty.
No pressure.
No pressure.
Well,
In your best radio voice, bring us home.
so I mean, I'm thinking, you know, Ed, you mentioned, you know, no, actually Steve who mentioned this. I lost track. Steve, you were talking about Chick-fil-A and Truett
Yeah,
Cathy.
name cards.
And I am so aligned at Chick-fil-A with our company's purpose and our company's values that it helps me get out of bed every day and go to work and be fulfilled.
Right.
So this is another venture, a business venture, and I think purpose and values are also critical there. So if anyone's going to undertake something like this or any business venture, I think you have to have a purpose that is greater than yourself or greater than just financial gain. That will move you along and lead you towards some kind of success. Or if not, ultimately, it's super successful and you're making a living out of it, at least you're going to get out of bed and take joy in accomplishing it because you believe in it. So as we were talking about earlier, the story itself, the values that are represented there. I couldn't do this work if this story went in a direction that I was not comfortable with, that I felt was going to tear people down or harm younger audience members or readers, that I knew this was going to lift them up, and that there's elements of the story that will lift people up to some kind of better place, wherever they might be. That helps me do this work every day.
Awesome. Ed, Steve, Jack, you guys are awesome. I am so thankful I got to spend time with you, hear your story, and share your story with everybody watching. Everybody out there, please support these amazing dudes, this great book, soon to be a series, and thank you all for watching.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for having us.